There is a conventional wisdom. Does raising the minimum wage actually reduce employment opportunities? But is this actually true? We wanted to test this idea using real data and statistical method rather than just relying on assumption. Our motivation was to challenge this conventional wisdom. We aim to see if the theory holds up when we use proper regression analysis and a broader data set. Sometimes what is obvious isn't supported by the evidence. We started with two hypotheses. The null hypothesis says minimum wage has no effect on unemployment rate. The alternative hypothesis says increasing minimum wage increases unemployment. Previous studies in Korea used only 7 years of data and sympathy tests, which limited their conclusions. So we recognized the need for methodology using international data.
Our previous studies on this topic mostly looked at just 7 years of Korean data. That approach had some big limitations. The sample was small, it only covered one country, and the period was relatively short. The analysis relied on t-tests and simple correlation, which told us if a relationship exists, but couldn't show us how strong or in what direction. That's why we decided to use a bigger and international dataset from the OECD, with data from multiple countries and more years. By doing that and using regression analysis, we could measure not just if there's a connection, but exactly how strong it is and which direction it goes. To move beyond those earlier limitations, we built a linear regression model for cross-country comparison, controlling for scale by using minimum wage adjusted for purchasing power parity. In this model, the unemployment rate is the dependent variable and minimum wage is the independent variable. Take a look at this regression formula. Y is the unemployment rate and X is the minimum wage. That is PPP adjusted in USD. And beta 0 is the intercept and beta 1 is the slope. Both variables are continuous, so linear regression is appropriate here. The key part is the slope. If it's negative, that suggests higher minimum wage is linked to lower unemployment, which actually goes against the classic theory. Here's what we found from our model. The scatter plot on this slide compares minimum wage and unemployment rate for several countries: China, Korea, Chile, and US. Each dot represents one country's annual observation. The regression line has a negative slope, meaning higher minimum wage is generally associated with lower unemployment. Take a look at our equation. The regression line has a negative slope beta 1, meaning that on average, countries with higher minimum wages tend to have lower unemployment. And then the R squared value is 0.1535, so minimum wage alone explains about 15% of the variation in unemployment rate. This is our option to interactive web page. When I click a part of the graph, more details will appear, and I can see how the data changes by clicking different sections. This makes it easy to understand the data step by step.
So what does it mean? Each $1 increase in minimum wage reduce unemployment by roughly 0.24 percentage points. This is a surprising result because it challenges the traditional belief that higher minimum wage leads to more unemployment. However, this result comes from a simple linear model with an R-square value of 0.1535, meaning the model explains only about 15% of unemployment variation. This low explanatory power means we must be cautious. The negative slope indicates an association, not proof of causation. Other important factors such as labor participation, HDI, GDP, and demographic structure may drive the remaining variation. Slides, you can see the difference between expectation and reality. We expected a positive slope as minimum wage growth goes up, unemployment goes up. But the data shows the opposite, the negative slope. So reality contradicts conventional wisdom. Minimum wage unemployment that reflect years. By adding years, we can see the regulation line changes. And let's play. From 2000 to 2025, we can see the regulation line change slightly, but it consistently retained the trend of negative.
However, our model explains only 15% of unemployment variation. That means 85% is explained by other factors. Some of these confounding variables might include the labor participation rate and the human development index and the overall economic situation in each country. These hidden variables show that unemployment is a complex, multidimensional issue. So what's next? We need to go beyond the simple regression and use a multiple linear regression model. This would allow us to include additional variables like HDI, GDP, and labor participation to get a clearer picture. Throughout the process, we followed the data-driven decision-making framework. In the testing stage, we checked whether a relationship existed. In the prediction stage, we used regression to estimate how much minimum wage affects unemployment. Finally, we compared our data-driven results to the conventional belief, finding clear contradictions.
For this project, we learned three important lessons. Statistical significance doesn't always equal real-world importance. Data must be understood in context. Numbers alone can't explain everything. Complex models like multiple regression provide deeper, more accurate insights. For future work, we plan to include critical confounding factors for stronger analysis. We learn how to collaborate effectively and divide tasks clearly. We practiced verifying assumptions through data instead of intuition. Most importantly, we gained confidence in using data-driven tools to explore real-world issues.